Alrighty, so we're continuing with part 2 of my Idol Search Season 10 audition critiques. Next up on my list is K. Stewart, 86, who sang another rendition of Rolling in the Deep. I believe you sang a rendition into your cell phone, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, eye contact is really important, so make sure you do have those lyrics down before you begin. Also, I want you to make sure that you know your song well in general, not just the lyrics, but the rhythmic structures of the song, how long to hold certain notes. There were several awkward phrasing moments where you extended some notes and you truncated a few others. And that rendered the rhythm very awkward in spots. But the good news, and this is very good news, is that I think you've got a killer voice. So once you have either a track or a more thorough knowledge of the song, preferably both, to work with, I think you've got a real shot in the competition. For now, though, your score is 4.4. Next up, Rockin' Ren 88. Singing 99 Red Balloons by Nena. The audio here is distorted. I think you might have your recording level up a bit high, so it renders some of the lyrics unrecognizable, to the point where it detracted from your presentation as a whole. However, I do love this look on you. I'm speaking in terms of the acoustic vibe. One issue I remember you having in past seasons is intonation, and performing a softer song with an accompaniment seems to have alleviated that in this case. The cardinal sin here is that I didn't sense a lot of commitment to the lyrics. While it sounded superficially pretty, you could have been singing la la la, and that would have been pretty too, but it's all about bringing the entire package together. So find the intent behind those lyrics, and if you add that to your improved intonation and presentation, I think you'll be cooking with gas. Your score is a 4.8. Next up is Cfetterhoff, Gail Helms, as she introduced herself so nicely. She sang an original song called Special Person, and while I said in the previous part that I don't typically deduct too many points for a kind of average presentation, I want to single out this video for being an absolutely stunning presentation. It's so peaceful, and it's perfectly in line with your own camera presence. The unfortunate thing about singing outdoors, though, is that your voice can get lost acoustically speaking. The song itself has some brilliant and heartbreaking moments, so congratulations on that. And I really enjoyed your commitment to it, which naturally will come with singing an original piece. From here, you'll want to work on projecting your voice more if you choose to sing outside, and furthermore on your intonation. There were several moments where you just didn't quite hit the notes I think you meant to. And finally, when you're singing an intense moment in the song, I know at some points you tended to raise your arms and look away from the camera, and I think that was just nerves. But look into it. Give us some face and convey that emotion straight to us like I'm doing right here. Maybe not quite that close. But I think that's going to pass as your nerves lessen, like I said. So for you, you get a 4.9. God's Chick 1, Allie from last season. Another version of an Adele song, but this one is Someone Like You. And I urge you all to check out Adele's stunning rendition of Someone Like You from the Brit Awards, if you haven't seen it already. I just watched it tonight and it was devastating. And Allie, there were many lovely aspects to your performance. It was gutsy of you to sing the album version of the Adele chorus, where she, I don't know, in her live performances, she tends to go, "Don't forget me, I beg, I remember you said." Whereas on the that was the live version, and on the album version she goes, "Don't forget me, I beg, I remember you said." And I think that added a real intensity that you chose the latter of those two options. It showed off a lovely upper register, but coming down from it on the "Remember You Saids," there were some pretty sloppy melisma notes. Also, the recording level was a bit high, which rendered some of your notes a bit shrill that I don't think were shrill in real life. Finally, for such a contemplative, sad song, this was really a bit rushed, which diminished the impact a bit, though I could tell that you were feeling it. So you get the quite solid score of 5.0. Next up is Karen Pink, 510, who sang "Count on Me" by Bruno Mars. And I really thought this was a breath of fresh air. There are a lot of pleasant qualities in your voice, though as you admit, you had a few mistakes and some rough around the edges spots in the vocal. However, I do think you did a good job of picking a song, like Cree advised for this round, that shows off the different colors and ranges of your voice. It's a fairly original choice as well. I wonder if Bruno Mars is going to release that as a single. Maybe you can answer that question for me. I bet Wikipedia could as well. But anyway, I applaud you for that. Your strongest attribute, though, is your infectious personality, like I said earlier. It radiates off the screen, and I want to see what you do with the backing and with a brighter presentation. This one was a little dark. Still, your score is a 5.3. Next up is ooCathrynoo, who did a rendition of "Jar of Hearts" by Christina Perri. And first of all, I want to congratulate you on doing the full song, which all too few people did on this audition round, and it really gave you the opportunity to develop the emotions of the song as you progressed through it, and gave you a showcase for yourself, which is what the audition round is all about. I do agree with Chaz on 2 points. First, a good one, that there's a Natalie Merchant-esque quality to your voice, which is awesome because I love me some Natalie Merchant. But on the less successful side, I also agree that there were a good few sharp notes in there. You don't tend to go flat, you tend to go sharp. So listen back to those recordings and see when that happens. Minor thing, I'd also tweak your sound recording settings a bit, because something about them is making you sound shrill and overly saturated, when I don't think that's how you sound in real life. But overall, it's a solid video. You get a 5.4. Next up, another rendition of "Rolling in the Deep," one of the better ones this week, by Happywilkie, Sarah. Sarah, you have a great vocal tone, especially the falsetto, "Rolling in the deep." That was just killer every time around. But one thing that you could do better, especially on this song, is emphasize those dynamics. I know you didn't go through the whole song, but there's a way that it never starts out really quiet, but it's already kind of a mezzo forte on the verses, and then fortissimo on the choruses. She just blows the roof off the place, and I'd like to see some differentiation there, because so much of what is great about Adele's version is her sense of build and the tension in her voice. Technically, though, it was a great vocal. I'm just kind of on the fence. I'm wanting to see more from you. So you get a very solid score of 5.7. Next up is Montax 35, our good friend Monterio. You sang "The Power of Love" by Celine Dion, and I thought that this had the potential to be a home run, but in the end I think you squeaked by with a ground rule double. Yes, even gay people can make baseball analogies. There was very little dynamic change between the verses and the chorus. which is where a lot of the power of the Celine version comes from. The whispers in the morning should be just that, whispers, and then we build. But I'm your lady! And I don't know how that visual was, but you get the difference between the quiet and the loud. Show off those dynamic ranges. This is good advice for everybody. Yeah, I've lost my place, but what was I talking about? Yeah, I felt like you were holding back a little bit, and it was a little bit rushed as well. Still, and I hate to say this, but you're coasting a little bit here, and you can get away with that for now, but it's not gonna cut the mustard when you get down to top 11 and 12, as we know all too well based on last season. That goes for both of us. So your vocal tone's pretty undeniable, and it was sung quite proficiently aside from those critiques I mentioned, but give us the theater. Okay, CorieChan sang Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, a very small excerpt of Bohemian Rhapsody, but a large enough excerpt for me to know that there is really something here, and you have a really powerful vocal instrument. Unfortunately, just like for many of our sports racers in this competition, the sound recording configuration you've got going on makes it sound really intensely shrill. So maybe turn down the microphone a bit, experiment with that. And then secondly, I just want to say that there are places, this goes, well, Monterio was kind of on a level dynamic, but you had two settings, very quiet and very loud. There are places on the volume meter between 3 and 11. Use them. So, I mean, I know I sound like I'm giving you quite a critique, but I really think that your voice is a diamond in the rough, and I thoroughly anticipate further performances from you. Your score on the basis of your audition is 5.9. Next up is Adam's Music 11. Adam, you sang I Turn to You by Christina Aguilera. And this song choice says a lot about you as an artist and the vocal standards you set for yourself. What it says to me about you is that you have a very skillful instrument, and that, like Christina's instrument, it can be used for good and it can be used for evil. My challenge to you is to not overuse that melisma, to really find intention behind every note that you sing. The reason Christina sometimes gets a bad rep, in my opinion, is that she disobeys Coco Chanel's classic fashion rule of removing one accessory before leaving the house. Don't throw in the kitchen sink when something less than that will do just fine. Find intention behind every note that you sing. And your score is a 6.0. Next is singer HSM 9000, who I don't believe gave us her name, but you sang The Climb by Miley Cyrus. I give you a great deal of credit for singing directly to camera and for playing your own instrument. These gain you major points in my book. But the catch when you sing direct to camera is that we see all the little moments when you disengage from the meaning of the song and the performance becomes entirely technical. On that basis, it's a very good audition. Not very good, it's a pretty good audition, but it's far from a great one. There are slight intonation problems throughout. The guitar is slightly out of tune, as many commenters mentioned, but overall the presentation is solid. Rock solid. I want it to be great. I'm curious to see where it'll go from here, whether this is kind of your ace in the hole performance or you can grow in the context of songs you may not have known before. I will end part 2 of my critiques here, and I will see you for part 3. Yeah, this is epic.